What up, babes? It's your girl, Dash. Come back to Real Takes. Well, it's that time again, guys. It's movie review time, and this is for Black Widow. So, before I begin, first off, this is going to be a spoiler review. I'm not even going to try not to get into it. I want to get straight for a rant. So, let me just put that out there first. It will definitely be in the title, so people can state that they didn't know. So, if you hear what I just said, then you can leave out of this video and come back once you've seen the film. Speaking of film, this one was a long time coming. We remember getting introduced to Natasha, aka Black Widow, back in Iron Man 2. I was here for her because I loved the way Scarlett Johansson portrayed her and just her overall the way she carried her character, the personality way, very rough hearts, whatever, occasionally a little bit of a, comedic, moments here and there, but straight about the agenda, being from, of course, knowing what she's been through and how she, grew up, how she was trained to be an assassin, all that. So that exterior she carried. So over the course of all the years that we see all the different Marvel films over the, 10 years, again, I stated this when I saw the trailer a year ago. We were supposed to get this movie last year, and then of course it got moved to this year, and it got moved around a couple of times until finally it came out this month. So I really wanted this to be truly my first movie back at the theaters to see. There's so much to choose from, but I really want to support this film, even though I do have Disney. But just to do that, being at Scarlett, of course, stated that this is probably her last time, playing the character and all that. Just makes it kind of bittersweet, especially when we know what happened to her in the Endgame. So with that said, let me go and just jump into it. Now, directed by Kate Shortland. I'm familiar with her work. She did TV series Smilf, which I thought was funny, and also did this one film that I really like called Berlin Syndrome. So I was kind of interested to see her take being, you know, definitely a little bit of difference on the genre what she did previously, but then this one being impactful plus being through Marvel, so you got to bring your A game. And I think she did a great job for what we were presented with this one. I think it was what, a good 2 hours. Um, I'll just kind of try my best to keep this, really condensed, whatever, and to the point. But I will say the way they showcase this, we definitely get a little bit of the backstory. We do see a time era back in '95 where it looks like, the two adults at the time are played by, of course, David Arbor as Alexei, and then, of course, Rachel Weisz as Melina. And they're, of course, little family, aspect, with the young girls, young Yelena and young Natasha. Now, we'll say two of the cuties. Yelena was played by, I want to say, Violet McGraw. She was in The Haunting of Hill House. And then also with Ever Anderson, she, of course, been in a couple of things. I know she did a movie with her mother, Mila Jovovich, one of the Resident Evil films, whichever. So she's kind of building up. So definitely cute. I like that they used the aspect of the age range being off. I think if you see the film, Yelena, of course, is, I think, plays a young one at 6. And I think one of the things, Natasha's character is probably maybe 13, 14 age bracket. So that's a little difference in age. But just the fact that they're on a mission, they've been there 3 years, and it looks like they got the information they needed, of course, dealing with Shield and some other things going on at the time. So it looks like they're on, they got to leave because they've been kind of, uncovered, and that's when it kind of sets up where things are not going to change. They're used to the dynamic of where they're living. I want to say, I don't know if they say Iowa or Ohio. I got the state wrong. My apologies on that. Needless to say, you can see it takes a toll on definitely Natasha, because she kind of figured what's going on. She knows a little bit more than young Yelena. So of course they eventually get away. They get to Cuba and they run into one character who's definitely instrumental in what happens to Natasha and Yelena as they get older, and that is Dracoff, played by Ray Winstone, and he plays him very cunning. He's a trash human. Just gonna say that off the cuff, and I'll get into that later. But needless to say, eventually, Melina definitely gets injured, risks of them, getting away in the, helicopter, but, Lexi doing his part with evidence and things of that nature. And then, him going to his friend and realizing his friend is not really his friend. He's all about his own agenda and kind of gets set up and is up in jail. Melina is kind of still kind of going with the flow, working with Dracoff, whatever, and all that, staying under the radar, doing a lot of the background stuff with, the communications, genetics, things of that nature. And with the girls, they end up getting, taken, separated from them, and then, put in where they're, of course, started to be trained, learn, whichever. And then we get, circa present day, where it shows First, a situation where Yelena's, dealing, with trying to get something from one of the widows who I think, is on the run, whatever, unbeknownst to her, with a real purpose. And she has something with like a red powder. And when she gets, caught up to Yelena, she gets, kind of like upper hand on, but then she's able to disperse this, which kind of helps with altering what looks to be some sort of mind control, which is definitely key, which was what like I said, light bulb went up, whatever. I'm like, okay. So she tells her, save the others. So she has a little bit of her faculties, and it sets it up where she takes out her tracking, and then she's kind of like on her ways on her run. So from there, you see what happens to Natasha, where of course time has passed, which I'm showing from Yelena's point of view, and then what's happening with, Natasha, she's dealing with, Secretary Ross, played by William Hurt. They're trying to get after her, with Shield, whichever. And unbeknownst to him, he thinks he's got the one up on her. But, like she said in the movie, it's like, you're embarrassing yourself. And he really did, because he really thought he did. But the girl's trained. It's like, he was just so senseless. So needless to say, she's trying to stay under the radar, because the way these films are set up with Black Widow, this movie falls between Captain America Civil War and Avengers Infinity War. So let me just put that time, lapse in between, so we can see kind of what we're dealing with. Needless with this, she's just staying under. She has a little spot. She has a dear friend who's helping her, get, certain little things that she needs to just stay, underground, whatever, while things kind of blow over. Some of them are locked up. Captain America's on the run too. So that kind of gives you an idea what's going on. In the midst of her, she gets some mail, and with that is something that Yelena sent to her, unbeknownst to her, from Budapest. So that's kind of where things start to kind of pick up. She, thinks she's kind of just doing her thing, and unbeknownst to her, going out in the middle of the night to get some more, some gas, to deal with, her situation with her electricity, she gets an uninvited guest, which is Taskmaster. And her thinking is this individual is coming after her. They are there for something else, and that's when she's able to realize what it is. And I like how she's sneaky with it. If you remember she was sneaky when she did Captain America, when he put the stuff inside the vending machine, whatever, and all that. Didn't realize she was watching, and she's able to grab it. I love that scene, because I really was mad when I was watching it in the theater. But needless with that, it sets it up where she sees the power, she sees the pictures from, events that happened when she was a child, her and Yelena, and she goes to see her. I will tell you this, to kind of move it along. I love the banter between the two girls, I'll say young lady, excuse me. Definitely some unaddressed, discussions or issues, amongst them, whatever, because time has passed. Clearly tell they're not seeing each other, especially when you see the fight sequence that happened. And some very good fight sequences in this film. Let's just put that out there. And even though she's there to protect her, and she has to, I'm glad she did, even though she's like, shouldn't have brought it back, the powder with her and all, that was what I wanted you to keep. But she's not knowing that she's thinking you're in trouble, the sisterly thing to come. But granted, that sisterly bond has been kind of, severed a little bit, because she has not been in contact with her. Her hiding out, you finding out that she was trying to get from up under Dreykov's, thumb, causing, explosion, that killed his daughter, Antonia. So a lot kind of going on there. In the midst of this, they decide they really have to deal with Dreykov, because she's thinking she killed him. And her sister's just like, did you find a body? No, she didn't find no body. So in the midst of this, now these widows are still out here doing, there's nobody else in charge, it's him. And you have this other individual, Taskmaster, out here coming to where I'm at, with the location, because something clearly was in the tracking of that. That's why he was able to locate her. So needless to say, from there, you see them trying to say, okay, we need to find someone who we think can probably figure out where Dreykov is, so let's go get Alexei, which sets up David Harbour. Thought he was great playing Alexei, as also as known as Red Russian. Did a very good job. I'm a fan of David Harbour. He's been in many films, always supporting. Did the damn thing in this one. Definitely get a little comedic timing at times. I love the scene with him, doing a lot of arm wrestling with the guys. One particular guy, really big, wherever and all that. He kept saying little things. I don't know if they called it Crimson Dynamo, whatever. Some stuff came up like, Russian Bear. So I know there was code for some stuff that was being stated. I don't read the comics, but I catch a couple of the wording. And I like how they sent him he gets some, mail, whatever, and all that, gets what looks like to be, his, Russian, Red Russian, little figure, whatever, but it's more to it. And it's like a breakout, moment, all that. Definitely another moment, some ass kicking, whatever, but due to Yelena, being overzealous, causes a tie. That's not, but they get him out. Then in the midst of that, they, locate, Melina. And that's where it gets really interesting. Like I stated, being that they came back from whatever, 95, the dinner table scene was very interesting. there's a lot of unresolved feelings, and rightfully so. The girls being torn from them not knowing they feel like a family, especially Yelena, because Natasha's like, this wasn't a family, this wasn't real, whatever. And Yelena takes a little offense to that, whatever. It was real to her, feeling disgusted and anger because certain things that was kept from her, So definitely hurt all around. Of course, Melina and Alexei thinking they're doing the best for the girls, but remember, if you see the movie, he talks about being bored, whatever, and it's kind of hard because if that's what you're saying a lot, whatever, and all that, what do you think the kids will remember? And I'm gonna tell you like this: kids are very intuitive, and they remember things, they hear things, and all that. Be careful what you say around them, and you see how it came back to bite him when Yelena's having a conversation, with him in the room when she decides to leave to be alone, and he doesn't let her. He comes in there, but I like how there's one scene where even though he's going on this kind of a little bit of a rant, talking about something, in regards to him, whatever, but then he sings a song, American Pie, which brings her back to that moment in the car when they were on the run to get away. And this basically knowing what's happening with Melina and Natasha talking, her feeling that she was, doesn't really have a mother and she was left again, whatever. And I like how Melina kind of lets her know, no, you were not. There's a lot that you didn't know, and that your mother was looking for you. And she was very, persistent in that. But due to Dreykov doing what he did, he made sure she was killed, whatever, and doesn't know, from there she doesn't know too much. But sets up when you see that she did call out, so they're coming to get them. But I like how certain things start to happen, and it's like a little reverse, a little flip. But they do get caught. They are put on the plane, they're taken, but there's more to the story of that. And it's the aspect of Draco thinking he's got the one up on them, but in some ways, Natasha's kind of set it up, and Milena's kind of guiding her and helping her. And it's always little ways they do things where, you think you're talking to somebody, with a certain face, but it's not the real person. But that confrontation between Dreykov and Natasha was really, really good. I enjoyed how things came out, but then you get the reveal with Taskmaster. And I will say this, and I'm just being honest, I'm not a comic book reader, but I do have a couple of friends who read it, and they told me, in instance, how Taskmaster, he, well, I don't say he, whatever and all, but just say Taskmaster was a formidable foe in regards to, going up against a lot of the, characters that we know and love with Marvel. So when I saw who it was, and it ends up being Antonia, aka, played by Olga Kurylenko, was kind of taken back. I wasn't expecting that. I really was not. I don't know, I don't know what it was, but when I was looking, I was just like, in that moment, in this moment, like with the full garb on, whatever and all that, it could be honestly anybody doing this particular scenes, but me believing it's her, probably from my instance being that I don't read them, I probably could, but for some reason it wasn't. But play along. So when he's explaining, when she, set up, that bomb in there, I think she was killing him, his daughter, and all that, definitely, hurting Antonia, whatever. You see how, the effects of the explosion to her face. And, and she seemed like she's definitely under his control because she's containing her anger, is just standing there. You would think if once she, locked eyes with Natasha, that she took off her, fake face of Melina, that she'd have grabbed her, whatever. But needless to say, he has another task for her to deal with, whichever. And Natasha is stuck dealing with Dreykov, thinking she's going to have him because that would have been her most formidable, person to go against her that would have stopped her. But he has something else where he's using, as he said, his pheromones, which causes her not to be able to touch him with a gun, try to grab him, hit him, whatever. And Melina, hence you get the the little part where it shows, in the past where they had a discussion of what she needs to do. He uses it against Melina, what she needs to do, sever, a nerve with and all that, which is probably within her nose, whatever, so she can't take in the pheromones, whatever. And she got into it. And I will say this, it was just, oh, I really want her to hit him. When he was hitting her, I was just not feeling it at that moment, but when she was able to get him, hit her enough that she was able to finish it, to break that controller he had over her, and then got to town, whatever, and all that. Saw where he used to open up the system to show how he talked about the girls, and how these girls are trash, and I made trash useful in some ways, where he has all these widows all over. And I'm glad that he opened his mouth and said so much so she pretty much knows what she needs to do, what will be the next agenda she needs to take care of, even though we're going to see, of course, as you saw for the next couple of movies with Avengers, what she can do and what her, her group and her family, whatever, can do to stop all of what he's done with this mind control. That is the key. And I like when she got her licks in, of course, Alexei and Taskmaster went at it a little bit. I will say I really wanted to see a little bit more from Alexei, in the fights, instances, because Taskmaster, but of course he can, replicate all the different types of fighting patterns and sequences. So it's kind of hard, but I wanted just a little bit more in that aspect. But I like how they were able to get up one up on him with Melina and then go and do that. So in the midst, of course, it's explosions happening. Melina set some explosions off. Yelena's, was about to have surgery, but they had, had a little knife for her to cut herself out, get to the Black Widows, use some of that powder so they can, deal with the situation of the mind control so they can, cut the girls free of Dreykov's, control. And it ends up working out in an instant, even though there was a nice little fight sequence where the girls were going to town on Natasha, literally like whooping tail. She held her own for a minute, but it's so many of them. But Yelena came to the rescue of her sister. And in the midst of that, I love how Natasha was able to get the information. She was able to fix her damn nose and just try to get out there. But of course, Taskmaster eventually she lets her out. The guilt of what she did to Antonia, knowing what Antonia's probably dealing with and all that, and the anger she probably resent she feels for her like, I'm going to let you out, because she could have left her in there, but that lets you know the guilt she felt because she didn't want the daughter to be there, and it's just she just couldn't live with herself. So they end up getting into it. You see in the trailer how they're fighting when they're in the middle of the sky, whatever, and Yelena trying to kill Dreykov and his little henchman, whatever. Love that scene. So deserving of that disgusting trash ass human. Yes. In the end, overall, they save the day. Like I said, she has the information. The girls come back, the widows come back to, get Yelena, Melina, and Alexei, whatever. They like, take this information. She's like, take this. You see Secretary Ross with his minions on their way to come deal with Natasha. She's like, I'm going to stay here. You all leave, whatever. And then, it kind of goes from there. Now, I will say with the setup of ending with showing Natasha, what her friend helping her with, looks like her actual aircraft. And of course, if you look at it, it's the one that is, of course, in Infinity War. You see her hair, definitely sets up the time frame for that, like I stated before. So I love the way that part ended. And of course, you get your post-credits ending scenes. We get to see Yelena. Of course, she gets a dog. She did talk to, they had a little conversation, her and Natasha, when they're trying to get away from the widows, when they were trying to get them, they had the powder. And of course, Taskmaster, she talked about how she, wants to have a normal life. She's buying like this cute little vest. She would like to get a dog. She's never done anything for herself because Dreykov has always controlled her. So when you see her, at the gravesite of Natasha, she's just having a moment. And then, of course, someone shows up. It looks like it's Valentina, played by Julia Louis-Dreyfus. And if you all seen it, the way the movie should have came out, would have came out last year. We saw this before. We saw Winter and Falcon, Falcon and Winter Soldier, but it still doesn't take away from it. We see there's a setup where I'm assuming she's going to be needing her services, but it looks like she's already done. She's like, here's your next, her next, agenda, whatever, pursuit or whatever. And not what I was thinking. And she's like, do you, here's the individual, the guy who is the reason for your sister's death. And when you see that as Hawkeye, Clint, I'm just like, you really didn't have nothing to do with that. They were both together. I'm not even going to get into that. But needless to say, it sets it up where we're going to see her character most likely in Hawkeye in the series. So I'm here for it. So with that said, let me just kind of go on a couple little bit of, things throughout the film. Like I stated, I really did enjoy the film overall. I will say this, when it came to Dreykov and the mind control, I really want to see just a tad bit more about the girls when they were being trained as young, when they showed the beginning credits of them being taken away and how they were put in, like, it looked like some sort of truck, take care, and you see how young Natasha's, going through emotions, watching things, learning things, whichever, until she was much older. Same thing with the scene of widows. You only see just a tad bit here, like quick flashes, whatever, but never seen a real actual training, whatever. You see things like they mess up in regards to a pursuit or whatever, or orders are giving. You see how one of the girls, he controls them and makes them kill himself because he doesn't want them to probably get caught giving information away, whatever. And I felt bad for the girl when she fell from the building, and she's like, I don't want to do this, but he's making me, and it's just, that was unfortunate. So that part I did, because you see the part with Melina talking about, and she get introduced to those cute little pigs, and one of the pigs opens the door, she makes a pig stop breathing, whatever, explaining all these little things, whatever, knowing there's a little bit more to what they realize, or some of them, I don't know if Alexa knew as much, but definitely Melina knowing, because she was able to give more information of what culminated them getting in there, knowing some stuff with S.H.I.E.L.D., whatever, and all that, utilizing that for a more bigger purpose. These are things, of course, we might learn back a little bit more and more on, possibly. Who's to say if they were to do, even though we're in phase 4, if they were to do another Black Widow film, whatever, and all that, and Yelena, of course, taking on the helm, whatever, and all that. They could probably go into more discussion, show some of her past, with that, maybe young little like Yelena, and then maybe teen and early adult. That would be interesting, and seeing some of the other girls as well. Just kind of get a little bit more of that backstory. Now, Dracoff, they couldn't flesh him out as much because we only have a certain amount of time these films can go into, and we're trying to cover all bases. So it is what it is. I know it was at least a good 2 hours. Some people, individual had told me they were like they thought it was too long. I said this was not long at all. And honestly, I wouldn't mind even if it was 30 minutes more if they gave us a little bit more in that aspect of Dracoff or whatever. But it is what it is. But needless to say, the little bit we did give him, he was some trash. And just, oh God, he's horrible. And I don't know if that was just a little bit of it because I know people from the comics probably say he's probably more heinous, whatever. They just didn't get to showcase truly, but just a little bit. I didn't need to see no more. That's why I was glad he died. So that part. Now, like I stated before, I love I love the range from all four of those characters, Alexei, Melina, Natasha, and Yelena. I will say this, Florence Pugh was awesome in his character. I don't think anybody else could have played Yelena. She did an amazing job. She at times was a scene still. I love how she nitpicked Natasha's pose when she comes down before she starts does her fight. And he thought that was so funny. I just hysterical with that, whatever. And when she tried it, she was just like, ugh, I just love that. I just like how she had definitely range in her emotions, how she could be very, comedic in her little, kind of like little shady comments here. And then, when she's being, very emotional, and strong-willed in her feelings about, the family dynamic, whatever, even though they thought they were, playing some sort of, family, whatever. But to her, like she stated, it was real. She didn't know any better. She's 6 years old. What is she going to know? They're not going to tell her anything. But like I said, Natasha was much older. I want to think 13, 14, like I stated. So, and then she knew a little bit more because she'd been introduced a little bit more probably from Alexei back then. That's why you could see a little bit of a difference, like I said, in her tone when they knew they had to leave the house in the middle of the night. So that aspect, like I said, Natasha not realizing she had her mother really was looking for her. She wasn't just thrown away as trash. Being told this information all this time, and still the hurt of her not knowing her mother and her mother taken from her, so she couldn't go and search for her if she wanted to. She was just all around given a bad rap. I did love how she did have a close, bond with Yelena, even though it was at times strained, with the time that's passed where they didn't see each other and her not visiting and checking on her like she should have been. She felt like Avengers, as she put it, as her family when she has been. I like how she at least made it. She said, I have two families, and they don't have to be blood. They got her back. She's got their back. And that's really all that matters. So that was a really good scene with her when she was, bringing that up to her friend at the end of the film. I love Melina, played by Rachel Weisz. I'm such a fan of Rachel Weisz. Just the way she carried on. I like the banter between her and Alexei. Little comments they made, like I've been in jail, just ridiculous, and want to make up for some lost time, and just a little bit of flirting going on there, which was hysterical. I really am going to hope they show them again sometime in the next this phase coming up. We might see a glimpse of them. I really do hope so, because I really feel like that is a character I really want to see again. Definitely David Harbour's character as Red Russian. That would be nice because you can clearly see, David Harbour. He made it his own. I did enjoy that. Now, one other thing I want to discuss real quick, so because I know this is getting long, is Taskmaster. Like I stated, I will say I did enjoy the scenes. I did see, definitely with a fight. I would have wanted a little bit more in the fight sequences with him, whatever, to see the abilities. But you never know. Down the road, we might get something more with that. The way they played the character with Antonio playing that, you see how Taskmaster didn't die. So there's a way they can go. We don't know if they're going to continue where Antonio's going to be Taskmaster. I have no idea what that. The way the technology was set up, where she watches and instantly have the information with the setup, I'm assuming through the mask or whatever, so she can replicate. It was just so fascinating, that aspect of it as well. So definitely liked that part of it. So we'll have to see. I'm really curious to see what Marvel has in store with a couple of these characters, but at least I know we're definitely going to see Yelena again. That definitely has been set up. And again, Florence Pugh, definitely good. This film, and let me just put it up for Scarlett, because I didn't want to leave on a bad note with that. I enjoyed her playing Black Widow, aka Natasha. I think she was amazing in this character. I can't say it enough. all through the years watching her and her character work and just, playing off the other characters and the guys in other films, just made it film. I love her mostly definitely in what is it? What is it? Captain America's Winter Soldier. That's one of my ultimate favorites out of all of the Marvels. That's probably my number one, and everything else after. But yeah, she long overdue. I love that we finally did get this. I know it was a long time coming, but I think they definitely gave her a service, did us a good service to give us her film. And then definitely, like I said, in regards to that, because when she passed in Endgame, I was so sad to see her character go, because I was definitely not expecting that at all. I really didn't think, that that was going to happen. And then, to see and then wondering, okay, we're getting her film, like, okay, we got to get a backstory. So when I knew we were getting it, I was just happy that she gets, her proper, because some of the other characters have more than one film. So it's just like, yeah, you all should have been did this, but again, it was worth the wait, and I'm very happy. So in the end, out of a 10, I give it about an 8. Like I said, mainly for the fact that, kind of keen on the part with Taskmaster, but then also the part like with more a little bit Jacob and the mind control, whatever, wanted a little bit more in that aspect of it. But overall, I so enjoyed it. Okay. So with that said, you guys, I know I rambled a little bit, but I really wanted to just kind of get into it and dissect it like I wanted with this one, So with that said, comment below. Let me know what you think. And with that said, I hope to see you on the next review. You guys take care.